Welcome back, hockey fans, to episode 12 of Lightin the Lamp. Here today, we're going to be just recapping all the Western Conference hockey games. I'm your host, Dola, and with me, as always, is JG. How's it going, pal?
Oh, pretty good, man. Seeing as, in between episodes, your boy just jumped in the pool. Beautiful summer day in New Jersey. Had to get a quick rinse in. Couple of beers down the hatchet already, obviously, after the Eastern Conference preview. So feeling pretty good and, excited to talk to you again. How you feeling out there on the West Coast? What are you drinking for me today, bud?
On the last episode, I did some of those Leisure Lagoons, but I think I'm going to bring it back to some of the modern times. This hazy citrus IPA, just about 7% here, so a couple of these bad boys, and I'll be buzzing. But me and the wifey are going to head over to the beach, meet some friends. I'm actually going to be playing some sauce toss on the beach, which is going to be excellent.
Lucky bastard.
Because
you guys were good?
Yeah, me and my boy both have a sauce toss set, so we'll be out there firing a few pucks around and showing the skills off, maybe jumping in the ocean here. So it's going to be a good day. We'll watch some hockey later tonight, but happy to be on Lightin the Lamp with you, buddy.
What beach you headed to for all the fans out there today?
Oh, we're going to Huntington Beach. Obviously, just a look past Main Street so we can find some street parking, some free street parking, but we'll be down in HB, maybe grabbing a cocktail after we hit some of the waves and shooting some pucks around. But Main Street should be a beaut. I mean, we'll be safe. We'll be obviously trying to socially distance and do all the right things. But we're definitely gonna be out and about today. So everyone out there, all the fans, please stay safe. Do what you got to do. Keep your family safe. That's the most important thing. But without much else being said, what else you got over there for me, JG? I got this beautiful modern times.
So, last episode we were doing the superhero beers. So, I kept it going. They're absolutely delicious. I think this week we're going to have to do a little swap-a-roo for the fans here. We've been doing a lot of beer drinking. I think we're going to have to go to a local spot. I think you send me a couple, I send you a couple, and we do it a little different this week since we keep shouting out the locals. But his superhero sidekicks, man, I've never been a craft guy. I will be back for you, and I cannot wait to get to Brooklyn to buy you out because what a delicious beer. And after two, the kid's feeling it already. I mean, great beer. Just enjoying my Saturday down the Jersey Shore here. Going to get in the pool, hang out with the pups, the wife, baby Dominic hanging out there in the stomach. So we're trying to enjoy our weekend here, but ready to get into these Western Conference games with you, man. Some great series and some great teams left to play each other. So,
well, I mean, we got to do one thing first here. We got to do a little cheers. I'm going to light the lamp here for us, for the fans, and we'll get into it, all right?
Fair enough. Let's do it.
So who was that today? 54. So I lit up Vancouver's horn, and we'll definitely get into that series. But Vancouver moving on. But obviously I'm rocking the Hawks gear. You already brought up Dominic Kubalik. Chicago Blackhawks versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Quite a heartbreaker. Vegas actually takes this 5-1. I think you and I both called this in
5-1.
What?
5-1 or 4-1?
It was 4-1. I'm sorry. It was 4-1. The Knights, they won it in 5 games.
It's obviously when we fuck up, we like to fuck with each other. So I had to throw a little jab there for the kid. But
yeah, and then I think we both called it in 6. I think we definitely thought the Hawks would have pulled one out. I don't want to say the Hawks wouldn't have given them a better fight because I truly believe the Hawks.
They were awesome. It was very similar to me to the Columbus series. I mean, if you're a Chicago fan right now, you head held up high. I mean, wow. I mean, easily with a bounce or two, like we said in the Columbus series, Chicago's 2-2 going into Game 5. I mean, you lose one in overtime, couple tough bounces at ends of games. I mean, Patty Kane put the boys on his back here. He looked unfucking believable as usual. Shout out to my boy Patty Kane, tickling the twine, you know. But I mean, wow! I am overly impressed with the Chicago Blackhawks. As much as it was a 4-1 series, and from looking at paper, you're like, oh wow, they got whomped on. They lost 4-1. Not at all the case. I mean, they could have easily been in this series. Taves, a world beater of a centerman, just, you know, when everybody was down on him the last year and a half, oh, he's maybe onto the decline.
He's over the hill. He's done. That contract.
Yeah, no, he shoved that right back in your face, ladies and gentlemen.
100%.
He was the best player on the Chicago Blackhawks throughout the playoffs, and you know he was overlooked obviously because you had Kirby Dach putting on a great performance, Dominic Kubalik, Alex DeBrincat, all the boys were firing on all cylinders, and they played hard, man. You can't be mad. Again, just like the Philly and Montreal series, to me, Las Vegas was just overly powerful. You knew that coming in. They were big, strong, skilled, physical. They've been there before. They lost in the Cup. They made it deep in the playoffs. They have veterans, Paul Stastny, Max Pacioretty, guys that have been there, done that. Pacioretty played against the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals. He got traded to Vegas. He's been there. He's been deep in the playoffs. A lot of veteran presences with a mix of young guys that are good players. And a lot of Stanley Cups have been won by guys that are on that Vegas team. So, you know, to me, that team was just a giant on paper. They remind me of the LA Kings in 2014 when they beat the Rangers, just an unbeatable force. And that's what they're looking like right now, man. To me, the best team left in the playoffs.
You know, when you were coming in, it was hard to be hopeful for the Hawks, but, you know, every game you watch the Hawks, I was more hopeful. Like, you know, it's just like you kind of love, like, what that team went through this year, right? Because even through the regular season, they were very inconsistent, very much like the Rangers. You know, they'd win one, they'd lose one, they'd win one, they'd lose one. They were very 500. At the end, they kind of went on a more of a stretch where they started putting some games together, making more of a playoff run. But they were still a fringe team, very much like the Rangers. Honestly, they had a worse record than the Rangers, and I was kind of poking some fun at them. It's just like, you know, Hawks are on the decline, Rangers are on the upswing, we're going to be winning the Cup. And you know, one thing that, you know, you even just said about the Knights, like, look at the Hawks. They have a great mixture of veterans. They have a great mixture of young guys. They have guys that have been deep into the playoffs, guys that have won the Cups.
When you get into the playoffs, I think that's, like, when you look at the Rangers and you look at the Blackhawks, the difference is Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves and Duncan
They've won the hardware. They can hold that freaking hardware.
Do the math between Kane, Taves, Keith, and Crawford. There's 11 Stanley Cups. So, You know what I mean? You that's where, when you get into the playoffs, the Rangers have none of that other than Kreider, one Stanley Cup they lost. You got a couple of guys that made it on that run with the Rangers. Not many left. Lundqvist, obviously.
But nobody who's touched it. Nobody who's held it.
You don't have any, and that is going to be a big thing the Rangers need to do, not to get off track, but that's what, like if you look at the Blackhawks, they can rebuild on the fly because they have that veteran leadership that can still play. I mean, Patty Kane is a 100-point guy a season. He's won 3 Cups. I mean, Jesus Christ. Could you do anything else wrong? Like, I mean, do you do anything wrong, Patty Kane? Probably not. But just
cab driver might disagree, but we don't judge.
Cab driver. But anyway, I mean, again, this series it could have been totally something different. I really thought Vegas probably could have won it in 4. You know, when you saw them come out in the first game, you were like, okay, like, the Blackhawks are hanging in, but Vegas is that good. So, like, to me, the series was over immediately. But then the Blackhawks just keep fighting on. So, I mean, just a great series. I wish it was a little bit longer because the hockey was so good. It was just tight games. Obviously, you know, a little lopsided on the wins column, but you know, it was great hockey. Every game was tight. Every game was won by a bounce or an overtime, and Crawford looked good. The goaltending for Vegas, you have Robin Lanier, and you even played Marc-Andre one game. All looked good, but to me, you're looking at the best team in the Western Conference, and if they continue to play the way they played in the Blackhawks series, which wasn't even their best, you're in for a treat with Vegas this year.
Yeah. I agree. And, you don't really have to say much more. Just hats off to the Hawks. I mean, they have a bright future. I mean, as long as Patty Kane and Tays and Keith and, some of those guys just continue to shine as veterans on that team, we definitely will be seeing them next year and talking about them all next year because they're going to be putting on a show. And just really, I'm just really excited that that team got to feel just going a little bit deeper into the playoffs and really like think about if Vegas raises the cup this year. Just think about, they gave them every bit of a fight, and they're going to be even more ready for the fight next year. So really excited for this group. Obviously rocking the jersey, but we're not going to harp on it too much. Hawks, cheers to you. You definitely have a bright future, and we're excited to watch you. Nice. Let's keep it rolling. Seriously, let's keep it rolling. It's going to be exciting to watch you in round two. We're definitely going to get into it more in the preview, but we're on the Knights bandwagon, and you'll definitely hear it out of us in the next one. But let's get into this next episode. We got the
I
Canucks
love this
versus
series,
Louis Blues. We're gonna get right into this one, just because this ended last night. It was the last one to finish around in round one, but it's a very exciting series. Not only was JG correct, but I was correct too. We both called this in six, and I
First
think
time it's a podcast that we picked something together and we're money on. So
hey man, the writing was on the wall. I think we both saw it.
Episode 12, Lighten the Lamp. JG and Dola with the prediction together for once here. We're usually killing each other, but we made it. We figured it out. But, great series. I mean, guys came out of the woodwork that I never knew were so good in this series. Jacob Markstrom, one in particular, been floating around the league for probably 8 or 9 years now. Played in Florida for a long time, was a backup, never really figured it out. Boy, did he find himself a spot in Vancouver. And, it shows you these goalies, they come out of the woodwork when they're 26, 27. It shows you how hard it is for a guy like Carter Hart or Elvis Merzlikins down in Columbus behind Corpusal. These guys are 21, 22 years old taking workloads on. So hats off to you guys. But, I mean, Jacob Markstrom, to me, MVP of Vancouver, as good as their forwards, Bo Horvat in particular.
Oh,
what a hell of a captain. I mean, I knew he was a good player. He got drafted 9th overall. Devils traded the pick. That's how Vancouver got him. The Devils got Corey Schneider in return in that deal, but which wasn't a bad move for the Devils because they needed goaltending after Brodeur, and it worked out for a couple of years. Not so good anymore, but I mean, Bo Horvat, God, the Devils wish they had Bo Horvat to play with Jack Hughes and these guys right now. You would have wished you would have just stuck with a regular goaltender and said, fuck Corey Schneider.
You would have just taken the different brother, right?
I mean, after watching what he did in this series, I mean, he's single-handedly. Quinn Hughes is, he's a unbelievable. I've never seen a defenseman of that class in my life. Him and Cale Makar are just scary good. But, I mean, just to watch Jacob Markstrom and Bo Horvat and JT Miller looked amazing. And, Vancouver is just deep, and you don't even realize it. If you start going through the roster, they have, I mean, JT Miller, a veteran, been to a Stanley Cup, been to 2 Eastern Conference Finals, 3 maybe, a lot of deep playoff runs. Like,
Dude.
These guys they traded a first rounder for JT Miller. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I mean, it's working out for him in a big way. Bo Horvat, Brock Besser out of North Dakota, Brock Besser's buddy, Troy Stetcher, the defenseman.
Dude, he had 2 goals last game. Like,
never mind the goals, though. Never mind the goals. Watch him play night in and night out. I got to watch him. I went to a national championship to see my buddies, the Clifton brothers, Connor, who's tearing it up on Boston, play at Quinnipiac. And they played Quinnipiac in the national championship down in Tampa Bay at Amalie Arena. And Torrey Stetcher and Brock Besser and actually Nick Schmaltz was on the team, another Hawk, turned Arizona Coyote, turned whatever else. He keeps getting traded, the poor guy. But Schmaltz, was on the team. Brock Besser was on the team. Torrey Stetcher. And they all stood out. And that was in 2015. I mean, Torrey Stetcher was an unbelievable defenseman. And, they're showing you maybe Brock Besser put a bug in their ear that it was his boy because he played with him at North Dakota. But he fits in on that team. He's a young, up-and-coming defenseman, hard body. He plays hard in the corners, in front of the net, moves the puck well, obviously can finish, scored a couple goals the other night. Just
What a knife to the chest.
Impressive all
6-2.
around by Vancouver. Even with St. Louis coming back, I never thought they had a chance in the series. Vancouver was strangling them all the way through. I mean, they played great hockey, and it's a shame they're going to run into Vegas here because I'd love to pick them again.
Yeah, I mean, it was I got to say that it never felt like the Blues series, even though the Blues definitely took a couple. It was always a battle. I always felt that Vancouver were in games. I always felt that the Blues were there, but I didn't see the same team that we saw in the Stanley Cup between O'Reilly and Tarasenko and just basically everyone on that squad. And you know, it was interesting, but you just really, really gotta love everything that's happening on Vancouver roster right now, and just everything they're putting together on the ice, and just what they're showing you day in and day out. And I think you said it in our last episode. It might have been episode 10. It was just, the Blues having just a little bit of the cup hangover, and just not as much grit, not as much, finish from their side of the ice as what you did see on the Vancouver side of the ice, right? And just, I mean, they definitely brought some grit, but just not enough that it was finishing. So I thought this was a great series, probably one of the best in the West. It's definitely much more of a battle. But as we get into the next series, there's really not much more to talk about. We're really, really excited for Vancouver. Going to watch them going forward. But
plus 220, by the way.
Heading into the Arizona Coyotes versus the Colorado Avalanche series. What do you got for me here, JJ?
Well, I mean, not much, and I don't think anybody's going to have much because at the end of the day, the Colorado Avalanche flex their muscle. The Yotes are not a wagon. I'm sorry, Biz. The Yotes are not a wagon. I mean, you see a good mix. I mean, they didn't look bad in some spots, but I mean, to finish a series 14-1 was the final. The Avalanche scored 7 goals in both of the last 2 games. Won
17-2 or 14-2 in the last 2 games.
Yeah, 14-2. Sorry. So you're 14-2 total. I mean, McKinnon. Never mind McKinnon. We don't even need to talk about him because the whole world knows about him. Let's talk about the Nazem Kadri trade. Tyson Barrie, a stud in Colorado, was unbelievable for them. He fit in well. You got Joe Sakic there. He just decided he didn't need him, and he went out and he picked up Nazem Kadri. And obviously, the scouts and Joe Sakic did a lot of film watching and calling around the league to find out what kind of guy Nazem was because, boy, it was a 1-for-1, and it worked out way better for Colorado than it did for Toronto.
Think about this. Like, it almost reminds me of, like, Joe Sakic thinking of, like, Nathan McKinnon. He's probably thinking of, like, okay, so Nathan McKinnon kind of repping into me. And then it's just like, who's my Peter Forsberg, right? And you go out and get Nazem Kadri and a guy that will finish in front of the net, punch you in the face, skate around you, get in front of you. Just more of like that, just overall, just hard work, grinder. I mean, I don't even want to take that away from McKinnon because McKinnon will get in there. I mean, you even said it to me that
going on the reverse hit. I mean,
the reverse hit, the back checking, cutting off passes. I mean, taking over control of the entire ice is just
200-foot game in the most amazing way possible. He is Sidney Crosby on steroids at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kadri trade again, like we've been talking about. I mean, like you said, he's that punch you in the mouth. And when I'm done, I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna score. I'm gonna go on a breakaway, and I'm gonna deke the shit out of the goalie. I have the skill to do it. Top-notch player. Was great at World Juniors for his year. Was great in junior period. Was a pretty good Toronto Maple Leaf, but don't think he fit in well with the media. They didn't love him too much. He was getting suspended a lot. He did a lot of stupid shit.
He had a lot of penalty minutes.
I think he got to Colorado, and he respects Joe Sakic so much and respects him for trading a guy like Tyson Barrie, who was a 60-point defenseman for Colorado, to Toronto to take a second to third line center at that point. I mean, right now, if he went anywhere else, he'd be a first or second line center in the league. Right here, he's probably your second line center, but he's got 6-7 goals already in the playoffs. I mean, you're seeing a different Nazem Kadri, the guy that I watched in junior and at the World Juniors, who I thought he was going to be. You're watching him now in Colorado come into his own, and I think that is the biggest trade that Colorado made in the last probably 5 or 6 years of the organization. And to top it, you made some small moves for Andrei Burakovsky, Nemesnikov from Ottawa. I mean, they did a great job of filling their roster out from 1 through 4 lines and from 1 through 6D. Look, the Rangers, our beloved Rangers, we hand away at Ryan Graves, a guy who I was following for a long time, thought he was pretty good, didn't know much about him, never got a shot at the Rangers. They let him go to Colorado, and he's a top-notch, maybe even a top defenseman. And you let him go, and I think he's just done a good job of picking up the misfits, so to speak, of the league, the guys that you didn't think were going to pan out on another team. He's bringing them in, and they're embracing the fact that Joe Sakic wants them to come play for the Colorado fucking Avalanche. And now you're seeing a world beater. I mean, I think between every team in the conference, you're looking at Colorado, Vegas are the best teams left for sure. I mean,
Vegas agrees with you. Vegas definitely agrees with you. I mean, talking about the lines, I mean, we'll get into that in episode 13. But, like, if you look at the Eastern Conference, very even. If you look at the Western Conference, Vegas ain't even giving this a thought. They're going Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. So they're supporting the boys at home. I mean, we've been saying it. I mean, it's funny. We get on a phone conversation, start talking hockey, and Nathan MacKinnon is just the best player in the NHL. He is unbelievable, night in and night out. Everything he does for that team, like it's incredible to watch. But I mean, they even have Cole Makar, a few other really great defensive pieces on that team, along with just like a very deep roster. I actually
just to finish on the Nathan MacKinnon note, I mean, we talked about it on the phone before, and we were like, we got to stop because this is what we're going to talk about on the podcast. But I mean, again, Connor McDavid, not to take anything away from the guy, he doesn't have much around him compared to MacKinnon. But even before MacKinnon had everything around him, he had a nice rookie season. He had a mediocre sophomore season, and Colorado obviously saw what we're seeing now at some point or another in those 2 years, because you look at a $6.3 million cap hit for another 5 years. I mean, you're all but robbing the guy. So hopefully when this is all said and done, you know, they take care of him on a gigantic one for 5 or 6 years, you know, to end his career in Colorado, because boy, did they rob him blind. $6.3 million for I got to say he's going to be every bit of a 120 points scorer in an 82 game season, watching what he's doing now. I mean, maybe even more potentially. He's looking at a Nikita Kucherov level of points, but while playing a complete 200-foot game. And if he could, he'd play more. He'd play a 300-foot game. He does it all. He hits. He blocks passing lanes. He plays on the penalty kill, the power play, 5-on-5. He scores on all 3 of them. He can't be stopped, and he's got the competitive edge that Crosby brings. I mean, he's a leader. He idolizes Sidney Crosby, and he's taking that to the next level. So it's pretty impressive to watch. And I think we can end on that note and head into a series where I got it shoved in the arsehole, sandpaper finish. You know, my boy Dola here predicted Dallas in 7, and he was off, quite frankly, because Dallas could have won in 5 the way things went. I mean, Tkachuk out of the series early on, hurt to no end. Another story, just like all through the playoffs, Winnipeg without Scheifele and Laine. Now you lost Tkachuk in the Calgary series, Svechnikov in Carolina. I mean, and the list goes on. There's plenty of teams that lost big-time players that couldn't recover from it, and Calgary couldn't recover. They looked great to start the series, and once Tkachuk was gone, Calgary was gone, quite frankly. I mean, hats off to Milan Lucic. He looked like the old Lucic all playoffs long. I think he brings a great element to that Calgary team. But Calgary's got a lot to look forward to. Johnny Gaudreau's still young. Sean Monahan's still young. Matthew Tkachuk, Elias Lindholm. I mean, they're young. Their decor's a little bit older. They could probably, sprucing that up a bit. They got Noah Hannafin back there, but obviously TJ Brody a little older, Mark Giordano a little older, but Talbot, another ex-Ranger, looked like a world beater. He had some bad games with a lot of goals he let in, but he played some games where you were like, holy shit, who is this guy? I mean, he was awesome. But Dallas, I obviously wasn't expecting them to be the Dallas of last year, and you let go of Zuccarello, you pick up Pavelski and Perry and a couple other pieces, and Khudobin stands on his head and takes over for Ben Bishop, who apparently isn't injured, which I'm confused about, but since he was on the bench. But again, I mean, Corey Perry showing you he's a crybaby, but he's fucking great at it, torturing everybody, burying goals. Joe Pavelski with a hat trick. The guy's going to be 150, still scoring 3 goals in a game. He's never going to stop. So, I mean, things have been great for Dallas. I mean, you got to remember last year they lost in Game 7 to the Stanley Cup champions, and by a goal. I mean, they could have easily been the Stanley Cup champions last year. They were that good. So, I like Dallas, and my boy Dola, I owe you $50, and you shoved it in the ass. Sandpaper finish. They really took control of the Calgary Flames.
I just think I saw something in Dallas in terms of just like what they could do, and just how deep their roster was. I think that, we were kind of overlooking them, but they were part of that.
I overlooked the shit out of them.
The top 4 squad, and I mean, really, like in the past, I've been to Dallas Stadium. I watched them play the Rangers. Luckily, the Rangers actually pulled it out there. Super excited.
Is that the game where they won 3-2?
Yeah, it was a great game,
really
but at the same time, it was just you saw they needed a little more firepower. They needed just a little more of it, and I think they got it in Pavelski. They got it in Perry, but I mean, you saw Pavelski had a hat trick, right? And then who was it? It was like Olensky or what was
Alexiak, a bust of a first-round pick for Dallas. They trade him to Pittsburgh. He comes back to Dallas, and he's playing amazing.
No, it was Guranov. It was Guranov had 4 goals in the second game, and again, but even look at the defenseman, Miro Heiskanen. I mean,
Miro Heiskanen is the most underrated young defenseman in all of the NHL. He's the fastest skater. He can skate with the likes of McKinnon and McDavid. It is scary. His feet, I mean, he's incredible. And not to mention, we haven't even said a word about Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. I mean,
that's what I mean. And then you get into Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, and they are just absolute studs, hard workers, grinders, fighters. Like they do it all. And just like to have that core group with Pavelski, with Perry, with Heiskanen, and now you're seeing some other guys really start coming up and start to shine elsewhere on this team. Now it becomes kind of scary that Dallas is able to. I mean, you look at that game. I mean, Calgary went up 3-0, and then Dallas put 7 up on them, which is
really
that's unheard of.
Sandpaper finish, man. Fucking 3-0. I fell asleep. I woke up to a text from you. These playoffs, I've never seen anything like it. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I open my phone. I go on the game center, and sure enough, Calgary 3-0. I was up $750 on Tuesday. I am now minus $3. So it's been a hell of a ride this week, gambling-wise, as you laugh at me. But tonight, I am not betting on hockey. The ponies will be played today, and I think I'm going to jump on the Islanders-Flyers series, and I'm going to take the Islanders in Game 1 for having Niskanen out there.
Now having Niskanen, maybe they take Game 1.
I like the Islanders in Game 1, and I like Philly for the series. Obviously, we're going to get into all that stuff in episode 13 tomorrow morning, but it's been a hell of a couple episodes here today. Buzzing. It's now 12:10. We're 10 minutes past your deadline to go to the beach with the wife, and I know you're going to get your nuts chopped off. So we're going to let Mr. Beer Dola get out of here and enjoy his beautiful California Saturday. Love you to death, pal. If you guys could like, share, comment, the whole 9. We're trying to expand here. We want to get bigger. We're working on getting on a podcast platform. We've been talking to some people, throughout the industry, and we're working our asses off. So just bear with us, and we're going to get there. But Mr. Beardola, enjoy your Saturday on the Gold Coast. Love you to death. Salute. Right. It's been a great day of hockey, and we'll talk tomorrow after the first game of the second round here. We'll have a little we'll have our thoughts on the second round of the playoffs.
All right. Salute, pal, to the wife and everyone. Hello, and enjoy the Jersey Shore. And you get after it today. We'll talk to
Have a
you.
good day, pal. Be
All
good.
right. Cheers, fans.